here come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Good evening, roomies, and welcome back to a special edition of Behind the Door with the Grey Rooms podcast. I am your host, Brooks Bigley, and with me tonight are Cassie Pertiet, creative director and artist behind the Grey Rooms, and Arthur Unk, who recently joined the podcast as writer and editor. How are you this evening, lady and gentlemen?
I'm doing really well. How are you guys?
I'm excited.
I am lamenting and loathing, but with love.
I mean, that's for me on the state, so we're good.
So is the life of a Grey Rooms employee, I suppose. Well, hey, we're here tonight to discuss basically, you know, the third quarter now of our narrative. We haven't seen the train gang in a while. We know that Bob has escaped the Grey Rooms, but we don't know where he's at. And we've spent the last few episodes joining our characters. Basically, Moth is spearheading this adventure to try and figure out just where the hell Bob is at. People are like clamoring to hear about what happened to the train gang. I miss those guys. You know, people just relax and wait. It's coming.
So, when we last left our intrepid heroes, what was going on? We know that Sam and Warden had their little difficulties and they escaped with Todd's help. Who saw that one coming, right? Todd doing magic? Yeah, I think gas station sushi is more trustworthy than Todd casting himself, but...
That's why we love him, though.
Yeah, it was a great twist. But it leads us into episode 9. And I mean, episode 9 was just... It was epic in its own way. You had Beckett sitting there with his soldiers, right? He's been gathering all these people from the different loci, and you hear about this plan that he's doing. And you're like, okay, well, what's going on? And it turns out they're trying to get the 4th and 5th layers to go to war with each other. You know, Belial seems to be making some sort of power move here. And you have the architect busting in going, you know, being all mad about Bob escaping. And then she squashes my guy. Poor John, right? She just comes in and just basically like rips his head off.
Well, yeah, the architect seems a little upset. Not so much about Bob, because I don't ever... I'm personally not recalling now that she ever had a thing against Bob, but it's more just like she feels disrespected that her project has somehow become penetrable, basically. I mean, no one is ever supposed to escape the Grey Rooms.
Right. It's like she trusted the warden, like, hey, here's a problem, take care of this. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't being taken care of.
Yeah. I think you see that a lot, and even last season, though, where it's like, she ran the show, and if you were going to be punished, you were punished and you did what you were told. And then when you got enough punishment, that's when they brought you back out of the closet and they said, okay, now we can give a little bit of faith back in you and we might put you back on duty. And, you know, this really goes against all of her plans. So I can understand just how upset and angry she gets. And I love that it builds more and more and more with each episode that we're seeing.
Right, and not to mention how Samantha, had returned, which that also kind of maybe defies again more of her. She just must be very just pissed off, like, what the hell is going on here? I've lost all control of my project, and rightfully so. People want to shut it down, and so now she's having to defend that. She's been spending time, through these last few episodes defending the project. Like, no, we're going to fix it. Things keep going wrong. And then she's just constantly trying to put Band-Aids over things to fix it again, to get it back on track. Who the hell knows if, she'll still be around, going into our next quarter here to be in charge of anything, because she's not handling the rooms very well. At least it appears that way.
Well, she's a survivor, because as we go into episode 10, we all of a sudden see that a plan is taking place. And one of the essential reveals that happened in episode 10 was that the architect revealed not only to Beckett, but to the audience, that she knows about Samuel. And that was a big reveal moment. It's like, that was always like Beckett's, I'm not going to say his trump card, but it was something that he played very, very close to the chest. And the fact that she revealed that she knew about Samuel's presence before she brought in her sister and Moth, I mean, it just kind of like set the table. It's like, look, I know things are going to hell, but there's a plan in place.
Right, and how stoic of Beckett that he did not really reveal any kind of emotion about that, being figured out, that he clearly this was his special power that he has been using this whole time that nobody has known about. And it's just right in the open there. He must feel exposed, but he's Beckett, he's soulless, so
Well, here's the thing. She revealed it just to Beckett. It was before her sister and Moth came in. So it's kind of like she's like, look, I know what's going on here, okay? I know what you can bring to the table. That's why I'm keeping you around. That's the way I took it.
Okay, yeah, no, I get that. No, that makes more sense then. Yeah. I mean, she didn't just reveal it in front of everyone to embarrass him or to reveal, his cards. So, yeah, It's more just like, hey, I know what you're doing there, but still allowing him to keep that close to his chest.
Yeah, but Moth, man, I'm telling you, Moth's a sneaky guy. He's a sneaky bastard. He knows something's up. He just can't put his finger on it just yet.
He is a manipulative motherfucker. He is up to so many things. Absolutely. Yeah. Mark Whitten he just embodies that character.
Oh, I love him in that character. I think that was perfect for him.
I loved him as Jake Stone. I loved him as I can't remember his character's name, but he did a podcast called Tribulation that I listened to on Audible. I mean, I love it. He's one of my favorite voice actors right now.
Yeah, he's a super sturdy actor. He reminds me of like a very wise New York cabbie for some reason. That's really just driving out of necessity versus really any desire to do it. But his voice is primo. I love Mark Whitten. But Moth, like, it was so cool. What was the episode called? A Drink at Maggie's, when he had to go to basically, Mary Magdalene as a bar in heaven. He just played it so cool. I'm forgetting what the angel's name was that he met up with.
Isith.
There's a lot of lithith in there.
Yeah. Eisheth or something like that.
Icethith. Well, anyways,
we'll just call her E.
Yeah, there you go. He plays it so cool. Like he I don't feel like he's setting people up against each other, but he's like a chameleon. He knows how to square off with each person that he's talking about and get them on his side, or at least not on his side, but get them to understand what he wants. He seems to be able to manipulate, I suppose, each person that he interacts with. So he is up to something. He is definitely up to something.
Yeah, he knows what he wants, and episode 11, which is what we're talking about right now, when he went to Maggie's, he gets a key piece of information that is basically setting up some big things that are going to happen. They learn of the existence of basically Hell 1.0.
Right, the original.
That Lucifer, they were like, I thought it was so cool the way the storyline went, where they were like, do you know Lucifer? Do you think he really could have got it right the first time?
Right, yeah, such a revelation, yeah.
Yeah, they were like, there's this other place, and Moth is like, no shit. All right. He's like, now things are making sense. Like, there's this piece of the puzzle he didn't have, and now he has it. Now he goes into, like, what is he going to do with this information? He's like a kid with a bunch of money in his pocket, and he just wants to spend it.
Another thing that, like, I'm still trying to piece together about Moth is when he was at the top of the restaurant with Beckett, and asking Beckett if this was really what it was like, for humans, in their realm. And Beckett was like, well, it wasn't my time period, but yes, it's very analogous to what even he experienced in his own future. But he made that comment. He describes the beauty of his realm where he's from. And then he's like, yeah, I prefer it here, though. That was interesting to me. Like, why is he not happy with where he comes from?
Because I think it's because people are just, the whole theme of this entire season has been about change, right? Everything is changing. Bob is changing. the realms are changing. And hold on a second,
Is it a coyote?
I got a motorcycle.
Oh.
That's just the warden coming through with his chainsaw. Come on, you got to play it up.
Yeah. Oh no! How'd the warden get here? Dear God! Okay, can you still hear it? Can you still hear the motorcycle?
Yeah, it sounds like it's going away. You know, the Doppler effect and all.
Yeah, it's going back away. So, okay. I think this whole season has been about change. Because if you think about it, you know, you have not just one new guest, but three new guests right in the beginning. So there's a change. And then you have Bob going through a change, and Samantha's talking about how she's changed, and Todd's talking about how she changed. And so when you get to this moment, this little intimate moment with Moth and Beckett, and he's describing where he came from, and like you said, he's like, but I prefer it here. It's about people changing. And so I think people are just, things have been going a certain way for so long that, well, what's the one thing that's constant? Change. And then the architect and her sister walk in and complete the fearsome foursome there in the restaurant. That's when we learn that Beckett is actually going to lead the charge in to go get Bob. So it's going to be Beckett versus Bob. And he's going to have a couple legions with him. They're getting help from the Mount. They're getting help from the Grove. I mean, they're using the Grove as a staging point, for God's sakes. So, because, you know, Moth, with his information, is like, wait a minute, do we need to be in hell to do all this stuff? It's like, even though they want to take the Grey Rooms public, they want to wrap this up before, I think, anything bigger progresses. So they're like, let's do this, take the Grey Rooms public, make out like bandits.
Now, what do you think the bonus is to, or what do you think would be the reasoning to take the Grey Rooms public?
Basically, it's, you can only do so much operating in the shadows. You know what I'm saying? You have to move things a certain way. You have to go about getting information a certain way. You have to acquire resources a certain way. And then when you put everything out in the public, it's like, oh, we don't have to hide anymore. We can just go out and do it now. So it's like, think about when you turn 21, right? You can start drinking. So basically everything you've been doing since you were 14 or 15 anyway, it's just now you can do it in public.
That is a brilliant analogy. I remember being very upset when I turned 21 because nothing changed.
Yeah. So, and that's where we went in. That's where we conclude that arc where they're getting ready to go after Bob and Samantha and Todd, and you know, all this stuff is being staged and waiting, and you know, the patrons, you know, get that preview heads up. They know a little bit of what happens next, but you know, it leads into the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, do we know that they know where Bob and Todd and Samantha went?
Oh yeah, they have I mean, it's the only logical place, because they were talking about how the architect talked about how she brought out Alma to shore up the rune work and make sure that people couldn't escape the Grey Rooms into that realm again, because it was something that the project just didn't account for in the beginning. They didn't account for this space because it was supposed to be abandoned, forgotten. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So now that they know, they took steps.
Mm-hmm.
Man, hats off to Zenke. I mean, he must pull his hair out all the time, just grappling with this massive world fitting in his brain that he's been writing. I mean, when he came in, he just had Bob and Samantha and Todd in a hotel, and now look where we are with this humongous universe that continues to grow.
Oh yeah, he's even been gracious enough to let me lay down a little bit of canon as well. So if you jump on get yourself a patron tier and become one of our special shareholders or executive members, you can hear a little bit more about an origin story for the rooms that I wrote called The Grey Lady. And that goes into a little more history about the formation of the Grey Rooms in the very, very beginning.
Right, and so yes, let's lead into that. I was speaking about this universe growing now, and it's so big that some of it is spilling out of Zenke's ears. That you've joined the team now to kind of help with that and maintain this universe. Do you want to kind of speak a little more on what's going on with that?
Yeah, I've been not necessarily given the keys to the kingdom, but I've been labeled a troublemaker or rabble rouser.
We're letting you look in the window.
Yeah, I know enough to be dangerous, and they're like, you know what? Rather than spread a false narrative, we're just going to let you know what's going on, and we're going to help you along the way to add to it. So yeah, I have a feeling that you had to buy my silence.
You were figuring out too much. That's right. You before you did join the team, when I did an older Behind the Door with you and Tori, you were revealing your ideas of what you thought were going to happen, and we were all like, "Oh my God, shut up! What is he doing? How does he know this? Who's the spy? Who's sharing information here?" Mm-hmm. You're just really good at connecting the dots. So naturally, of course, we're like, we got to acquire him. We got to bring him into the fold now.
Well, one of the things that I've been able to help out with more so than a writing aspect is I'm still getting to continue the things that I've done in the Discord server, just on the larger Grey Rooms platform. Because beforehand, all the editing for all the stories, all the converting prose stories into script work, all that, I mean, it was basically done by Zenke and Cassie. And I get to bring my skill set to the table and kind of help with that a little bit in the editing realm, in helping add the voice of the Grey Rooms into every story.
Yeah, which I will say I very, very, very much appreciate it, because I know it was a big mission between Zenke and I, especially to edit this last season. So I'm very glad to have you on the team, Arthur.
No, thank you. It's been a weird and wild journey. I've gotten to work on everything from Bane to some regular season stuff. Like, I don't know if we can reveal this or not, but I'm going to anyway. I've been helping write some of Jason's intros and outros.
Oh, for his announcements on the main episode portions.
Yep, at the beginning and ending of the episodes. So ever since episode 9, there's been a little bit of Arthur Unk influence going on.
Which I could probably either go two ways. You're either going to make him sound even more maniacal, or you're going to make him sound really good. So I think it's a benefit to the show either way.
Yeah. There was one comment that we had on the Discord server where someone sent me a message talking about the end of Torch It, and they were like, hunk of burning love? Really? I was like, oh yeah, I did make that joke, didn't I?
Feels slightly appropriately like the warden, though. Like that feels natural for that.
Yeah, it does. I was going to say, I appreciate you, Arthur, for what you do bring, to the podcast table, because you have such a dedication to written words itself and how they translate into a story, and just with my interactions with you, the books that you have recommended to me that I have purchased just so I can kind of sharpen my own, skill at interviewing with authors about what makes a story. I really see in you this passion for, getting words to the most expressive point, to punch up a sentence so that you absolutely feel every single bit of every, letter in that sentence. And that's so cool, because not a lot of authors I know, but just people in general that I know of that, write things. It's more like they just feel like they just got to write things to get it out, and then they're it's out. I wrote it on paper, and that's it. They don't go back and keep revising or editing, or they're just not conscious per se of how powerful or how much more powerful they can make a sentence. So I've always noticed that with you, and just the way that you encourage all of the authors in all of the interactions that we have on Discord. We have such a beautiful community on Discord of all different kinds of people that are into gaming, into writing, into just regular everyday life discussions. And you're a very positive gem among all of that. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you. I do what I can. and I'm just trying to live up to a larger legacy. It feels good knowing the proper name to call things. You know, that was my whole reason for wanting to know more about writing. Is I wanted to know, when I had these professional discussions with people, I wanted to sound intelligent when I was discussing things, or be able to explain why I was having a problem or how I found a solution, and being able to use the right words for it. So that was part of that journey. Yeah, I know Cassie does a lot of editing too. So not just in words, but also there's probably a lot of editing that goes into art too.
Yeah, let's talk about you, Cassie. Let's shine the light on you a little bit. I mean, you've been on some behind the doors, but we're talking like early season 2, back when we had like 8 people in the discussion, and everyone, half of everybody was drinking beer, and no one knew what we were doing.
That's very true. That's very, very true. Those were fun behind the door days, but yeah, we've come quite a long way from there.
We've grown. But so I mean, mostly people do know that you do the artwork. If I can ask you, like, when you know, the burning question of like, how do you do this? Like, you read a script, so you've got this new story, and it's about this guy that does this thing, and then this woman says this thing, and then this thing happens, and so you read over that. How does that all come together in your head that you then can churn out this artwork that's appropriate back, you know, to the story?
Oh, I mean, you know, like you mentioned earlier, Arthur, like, you know, I do so much with the stories even before they hit casting, you know, editing, working through submissions. I work a lot with authors on the back end. So it's like I get such an intimate understanding of where the characters are, what their motives are. And I really love to go for those really deep, biting moments with the art. You know, things where it's like you can instantly look at it and it grabs you and you feel a lot of emotion in it. Because I always look at these as like really intriguing book covers or really good movie posters where you don't even know anything about the story yet, but you see that cover and you're like, oh my God, I just got to pick this up off the shelf. Like that's really my goal every time. And if I can make it gross and squishy, or if I can just make it something that's like so visually grabbing that helps illustrate the story, like I'm all about it. Like I love that bit.
Yeah, one of my favorites of yours from the season was episode 9, The Withering Room, because, you know, to me, had I read that story and I was in charge of art, I would have been trying to figure, how do I represent this woman that's, you know, a succubus and stealing people's energies? And you literally just was like, no, let's showcase the actual withering room, that the end result that these people are going through. And it was, without any context, seeing that like, if I had not known anything about the story, you know, so like the average fan right before they've heard the story, I would have had no idea, and yet been so intrigued. Like, what? These all these people standing around on a shelf. What the hell is going on here? It definitely grabs you. It makes you go, huh? What is this? And I feel like if I was scrolling through stuff, I'd stop. What is this episode? I want to hear what it was about.
Oh, exactly. Like, you know, anytime I talk about the show to friends or anyone that's curious or people on the street, I mean, hell, I talk about it at work all the time, but I always talk to you about just how well Jason can take you and make you feel like you're in a room. Like I have episodes of his that I absolutely love where it's like you hear the grass as people are walking, like you really feel like you're in the space. So like even in that one in particular, I was like, well, what would it be like if you were in this woman's apartment and you just happened to see her little shelf of characters? Like I want to be able to put people in that space and make them feel like they're really a part of it, or they're getting that really intimate view into the story that, just like you said, it draws them in and makes them want to listen to the episode and figure out like what is going on here.
Yeah, marketing is shown even with regular books. One of the first things that people look at is the cover art. That's what initially draws people in. So in a way, when you see that cover art, it's kind of like, you know, that 1,000-word description of the story, because a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Right.
So We don't need to write a synopsis. We just need to have Cassie make a picture.
There you go. And then even like a further example, like Mark Taus brought that up too in his latest Behind the Door with Me, where he said that unfortunately there was a story or a novel that he had written, and it appeared to be like a younger person's novel because of the creative design that the publisher had chosen to do for the cover for his story, and he wasn't happy with that. So now that he's gotten, I don't know how it works, his permission or something to re-release the book, he's had the cover redone. I haven't seen that yet, but I get that concept because I remember seeing, based on what he said, I do remember that first original cover and thinking like, this looks like, like a child's book. This looks like a young teenager's coming of age book. And that was not what it was about. And then also how he described, his latest story that's going to come out about like the older people going for one last ride to do something. And I just saw the cover art for that, and I was blown away. It was like a picture of a bus going to hell with like a car flipped over. Like it was like all kinds of crazy shit happening. I'm like, I definitely don't care that this is about old people. I want to read this story because that's super intriguing right there. That scene that they're portraying. So yeah, for sure, you should judge a book by its cover. Never thought I'd say that.
Yeah, if only we could live up to the hype of the cover.
Yeah, that's what it is. Is I'm just making sure that Jason and Jam and everybody they live up to the art. That's all.
Yeah. So, are there any other things that you want to reveal that you do, Cassie, for the podcast, just aside from the artwork?
I mean, I think herding cats is probably the best way to describe it.
Yes.
I hate saying it like that, but so I mean, a lot of people don't know it, but it's like the reason I have the title creative director because I really do so much of the background stuff that you guys don't get to see every day. Like, I do everything from collecting the submissions and giving them their first read through. I work with the authors. I help do all the scheduling. I keep the team together. I mean, I help work on all the advertising and, especially with our new partnership with iHeartRadio, like that was a big deal that I got to help broker and bring to life. Like I am the man behind the curtain, basically. Like anything that you can think of that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that, all of my creatives can just work on the parts that they love and don't have to worry about the rest. Like I take care of all the rest.
Yeah, you're the glue behind it all. And like Jason said, in an interview recently that you were like his right-hand woman that, helps keep him sane and keep him, on schedule. So for sure, you definitely have your fingers in like every bit of the pie and keep it all going. Otherwise, we'd all just kind of be like spinning around in our own circles, doing our own things to help the podcast, but also like, well, what's he doing over there? What's she doing over there? Not fully integrated. You integrate it all together for us.
Yeah, it's like, well, I would write a story, but now I have to meet with this guy to talk about advertising revenue. I don't know anything about that.
Right.
Just leave that all to me, and I will help you figure out all of those odds and ends. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been such a great creative journey. I've been here since almost day one. I probably came in on like day 5 because I think it was I think Brooks, you and I came in about the same time, but it was literally what Jason and Brian and Graham leading the charge, and then we all started filtering in around them.
What is it? We had, like you said, we had Jason, Brian, and Graham putting everything together, and then they had enlisted Mediocre to do the first couple of pieces of artwork for the podcast. But even that was very short-lived. His schedule was not really coinciding with us very well. And then you came in, Cassie, and we were able to get some artwork from you. We were able to, allow Graham and I to kind of help out with some of the artwork that very first season. Graham did an amazing job with that one story for Gemma Amore.
Mm-hmm. I do love the perspective you did. Yeah.
Yeah. You for sure became our steadfast, only artist by season 2, and you absolutely set the tone for the podcast. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that was one of the things I really wanted to do in season 2 as well, is I really wanted to make sure that all of the art had this really special grit to it. It had its own feel. Like, I wanted to make sure that when you saw Grey Room's art, that it had kind of a brand to it. So I worked really, really hard actually on making sure that everything felt gritty and dirty and just really deep and fun to like gaze into and horrify people.
Right. And I'm sure it's just, you just have it down pat now. You could probably take a nap while working on artwork. You're so good at it. You just read a story and churn it out right away.
I've definitely got it down to a science at this point.
Yeah, there's every component coming together to create this just visual audio wall of entertainment, that fans and followers go nuts for. It's really amazing to see how it all forms and connects. So speaking about the podcast for Grey Rooms, we should probably discuss submissions, getting people to actually be a part of the podcast itself. We have our submissions open currently. Remind me when the due date is?
Yeah, April 17th. I need everything in my inbox by then. But I love that portion too. Like, that is one of my favorite parts of the season. I do so much behind the scenes stuff for the show. Not only the art, but running all the advertising, all the marketing, getting to run the team and set the calendar and just keep everyone in line. But the submissions will always be one of my favorite bits. Like, I love seeing all the new voices that come into the space and really tell us a story. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah, we want, everybody has a story to tell, and we want to bring people in and to open them up. We are willing to help in any conceivable way with authors who want to tell their story, to help them hone that tool of storytelling. We have this amazing community on Discord that, Arthur, you're a big part of helping other authors get their bearings on how to tell a better story, or even just to kind of just shoot ideas around, to encourage each other to write better, or to figure out a component of their story. We've got experienced authors that come in, and ask for help or ask for support or ask if this idea is good or not or whatnot. So it's a very uplifting community of people, but man, we want your stories. We do have people currently submitting now, so be a part of the magic of the Grey Rooms, and whatever you've written, present it to us. We want to hear every genre of horror, every kind of idea that you have. As long as your character dies in the end, we want to do something with that.
And I will say too, like, if you have other horror stories that aren't just necessarily like, boom, this is a one and done, this is where the character dies in the end, we do have a lot of other submission opportunities available. One of which is Bane, which, Jason loves to talk about how it's our podcast within a podcast. It's been such a long-standing part of our Grey Rooms journey that the patrons get to experience. And thankfully, or luckily, that's going to be coming in May. So everyone will get to experience the horror of Bane. And submissions are open for that as well. Those are all just creepypasta, fun kind of horror stories. But we actually have another new show coming up that we would love for people to submit to as well, called Fireside Nightmares. And that is such a great way to showcase stories that are like campfire tales, urban legends, ghost stories, just things that you would listen to as you're sitting around a roaring fire, out in the wilderness, and other creepy kinds of tales. So definitely submit to those as well.
Yeah, if you're an old guy like me, you might remember a show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? That's kind of the feel that I'm getting from it.
Yes, yeah. So it's so important to figure out which avenue to go with these stories, that if you don't think that you want your character to die, you're sitting on a story that you're really passionate about, but maybe doesn't fit the Grey Rooms guidelines itself, that's what Bane is for. Bane is there so that we can tell more of the creepypasta feel. And then, as you said, Cassie, if you've got a story that harkens back to something maybe that's an actual myth or legend from when we were all kids, something true to history, we want to do that for the Fireside. Just expanding the Grey Room's umbrella is basically what we're doing here. The Grey Room's productions, and don't forget we've got the Ghost Signal that Jeff does. What is his name, Arthur?
Control Operator Jeff.
Control Operator Jeff.
I'm telling you, the Ghost Signal is one of the best things that I've listened to in a long time. It basically is Jeff telling us about these real life supernatural occurrences, whether it be instances with witches, haunted houses, haunted places, haunted objects. I mean, it's basically like watching listening to a Travel Channel episode of when they go through and do all the scary things. It's good stuff. And then there's different parts to the Ghost Signal too. He tells us like the true life things that happens, and then also he's got a second part of it called the Graveyard Shift. And the Graveyard Shift is where people send in their own accounts of supernatural things that have happened to them or scary things that have happened to them. And it's just going to expand from there, I think, and it's going to be absolutely great.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we are just all about taking what you love, what you've written, what you enjoy, and turning it into something to listen to, something to feed your earballs, basically. movies for your ears.
It's one of the few things that I throw my hard-earned money at because I'm a patron of the Ghost Signal as well. So it's definitely worth your time.
100%. Yeah. Well, I'm really excited and happy that the two of you were able to sit down with me and talk about all this and reveal the things that we did. We were able to kind of get more into the nuances of what happened last, in the main narrative, and we got to hear from you, Cassie, about some of the things that you do. And hey, welcome aboard, Arthur. You're a part of the team now.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So I guess as we draw to a close here, just remember, folks, that we want your stories. Send them to us. You got, what is it? It's March 17th as we record this. You have until April 17th to get those submissions in for season 5. They can be anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000 words. We also want to do we are also doing a 5-part miniseries, 3-part miniseries. Those will all be coming later on in the season. So if you've got an even bigger idea, I think, 5,000 words for a first episode. We want to at least have that done. Do you want to explain any more of that, Cassie?
Yeah. So if you're interested in taking your story and, say you can't fit it into that, 3,500 to 4,000 word frame because you don't think it'll do it justice. If you have a story like that, shoot us the first episode, give us an outline and a summary of the way that you think your arc will go for 5 episodes, and send it our way. Like, even if it's not completely done, we'd love to read it. We'd love to support new authors and give their stories a lot of life and just really enjoy having fun writing. So.
And Arthur, didn't you do something for us, or are we not supposed to reveal that?
I don't know if we've talked about Broken at all coming up, so I don't know if that's been revealed yet as a thing.
Yeah, it's not been talked about publicly yet, but it is on the back burner right now. It'll come out this summer, but I'm excited for that as well.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I do want to add something about the 3-episode miniseries, though.
Sure.
So, if you got the 3-episode miniseries idea, think of it kind of like a failed Grey Room. Somehow within 3 episodes, you can do a Grey Room-like format where you show why the first iterations of the rooms did not work.
Yeah, really think of it as a prequel, honestly, to the first season even, because it's like Raymond was our first successful guest. So if you think about these 3-episode failures, you have your own guest, you can build your own rooms, but just know in the end, this is why the project didn't work. This was them and their failing attempts of trying to make the Grey Rooms before Raymond made it successful. So we'd love to hear those stories as well.
Yeah. And I want to hear people, I challenge people to do some kind of comedy horror, because I feel like, I mean, comedy and horror go hand in hand. Those are like the two mainstays that everyone loves. Like, either if you don't like horror movies, that's great. You clearly like comedy movies. If you don't like comedy movies, I'm sure you like horror movies. If you don't like either one, there's something wrong with you, and just leave the planet now, I guess. So I challenge people to maybe do something like that. That would be a lot of fun. I mean, the Warden has, you know, kind of this weird humor behind his maniacal persona, and so, like, if you can kind of drum that up a little bit, we're not saying you can write as the Warden, but if you could play upon, like, remember in season 1 we had that, like, game show, that special bonus episode with, like, the game show, and I miss those days when we did that stuff. Or even you, Cassie, you wrote some stories during, was it season 2? You wrote 2 stories. I
wrote 3 episodes for season 2, actually.
3 episodes, yeah.
Those were so much fun to take Todd and just, I mean, make them hilarious in the best way that you can make Todd just tease the other characters. So.
Yeah, Bob and Todd trying to fix the elevator. It was hilarious. So that's a lot of fun too, I think. So if someone can make a very compelling comedy horror story for us, whether it be for, you know, the Grey Room's regular season where the character dies, whether it be for Bane, just whatever, please, Brooks Bigley is asking you, please submit those. I want to hear that. So yeah, we've got so much happening and going on now under the Grey Room's production. It's going to be a very, very, very exciting time moving forward here.
And keep an eye out, because there are some things in the wings that even Jason and I are working on that are going to be a couple other new podcasts that come into the scene, even beyond Bane and Fireside. So stay tuned.
Well, it was great of the two of you for joining us tonight. I appreciate the both of you for taking the time to sit and chat, and I thank the both of you for helping to create the world of the Grey Rooms.
I'm glad to be here. This has been a lot of fun and a really wild journey.
And I don't think I'm going anywhere in the near future. I set down 2 deeper roots.
You know, the Warden has chained you to a chair, and you know he will not let you escape.
One of us.
Yeah, I've been cemented into the walls for sure.
Yep. Well, as usual, the biggest thank you goes out to our fans and followers who listen daily and spread the good word of Bob. May you languish, lament, and loathe, but always with love. #stay gray. Take care and enjoy your evening, lady and gentlemen.
I appreciate you, and Craig, I'm going to find you, and I have a certain set of skills. I'm coming for you.
I hate Craig, but we'll just leave it at that. And good night, folks. Bye.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind the Door.